Good evening, Chicago. This is Jerry Vasilatos from Chicago Corner with my co-host tonight, Kira Elliott. Many of you know her from the regular Hardlands Media show. She joins the Kit and Daniel on Thursday nights. No. What night are you on? I know Lainey's on Thursdays. No,
I'm on Wednesday. I'm on Wednesday nights. Yeah, Lainey's on Thursday.
Got it. So
I'm flattered that you confuse us, though, because Lainey is outraged. She's whip smart.
Oh my gosh! I'm going to start calling Lainey the walking encyclopedia.
Yeah. That woman floors me. She impresses me to no end. So yeah.
When we had the staff meeting last Sunday, she's got 3 MBAs. I think she told us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
unbelievable.
She's worked in media forever. I mean, you've worked in media and film for a while too. And I went to school for it, but then there was a big gap for me. But she just knows her way around. So I'm really endlessly impressed by her.
And she knows a lot of the movers and shakers in town too, which is a tremendous asset for access for us as we want to report on a lot of the stories regarding politics and civic matters.
Yep, absolutely.
I've never had a chance. I'm sure a lot of people might already be familiar with you from the regular show, obviously, but do you want to share with us a little bit about your background in media? Because I thank you for what you just mentioned a moment ago, although I have to say I've worked more in the creative realm of media myself, narrative, directing, producing. I'm a complete news junkie, which is what kind of guided my path to reaching out to Daniel and Kit to becoming involved with the channel here, which I'm really gracious for because it's such a great opportunity to feel like I've finally got a place to shoot my big mouth off as I'm.
Yeah, well, and a team to help you do it, right? Come on. I was
absolutely
so impressed by that meeting and the powerhouses that were in that room.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, okay, we have a real team here. I have I did go to school for television and radio production with a focus in journalism because I wanted to be a political pundit when I grew up. And I interned in Washington, D.C. when I was a junior in college for that year. And I just didn't fit in. I just did not fit in.
In what way didn't you feel that you fit in, though?
Those people were so serious, right? Okay. They're everybody was super dry. Everybody was kind of I don't know, kind of a butt kisser in a lot of ways where I was just ooh, that's kind of gross. And I just didn't feel like I fit in. They just weren't my people. And, what's really funny about that is I remember sitting in a restaurant in Louisiana, and I don't watch a lot of mainstream media at all, but behind on the wall behind my husband was a news show that was on, and someone that I had actually gone to school with was one of the talking heads on the news show. I think it was maybe CNN or MSNBC, and I was like, oh my God, it's Jackie, and I just couldn't believe it. And I was like that, I worked with her at Ruby Tuesday. I was in a program with her, and I was floored, and I was like, oh, because there's a little part of you that's just wow, we were running a similar track, and then somewhere, I think it was after that year, we went in separate ways, and I actually ended up working in Los Angeles. We had talked about the time that I spent in LA working in entertainment television and realizing that it wasn't really my bag. I actually fit in with those folks more, but there was no passion for me around creating television. And so I ended up leaving that and coming to Chicago because I had a boyfriend living here and no real other reason. I'd never lived in Chicago before, but that was at the tail end of 2006. And I started my business here in Chicago in 2008 as a personal trainer. And that business has grown over time over the last 13 and a half years. But in 2009, I actually started organizing and becoming an activist in the city, and have done many, many things since that time. But starting out with US Uncut Chicago, creating that organization here in the city. And then we actually got covered by a documentary film team for a documentary called We're Not Broke. that you can find pretty easily if you want to look it up. And you'll see me, I'm one of the featured protesters. And it was kind of fun having someone like follow you around. I felt like I was like in one of those reality TV shows. But yeah, we did a lot of work in shaming corporations around tax dodging, stopping the repatriation of funds coming back into the United States at only 4% at that time. And it was really rewarding work. And I just continued on that path, which is ultimately how I ended up meeting Kit in 2014.
So how did you meet Kit? That sounds like an interesting story.
Well,
the activist scene.
Yeah, well, I had heard of a TYT meetup. And, I was, listening to TYT and they were having a Chicago meetup. And I was like, well, that sounds like fun. Backstory, I had also just gotten out of like a 7-year relationship. I was in the pits. I was like drinking a lot, the whole nine, right? It was kind of a sad time. And so I just really felt like I needed community and camaraderie. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to this meetup. I feel like I'm gonna meet people that I really enjoy at this meetup. So I went there, and the rest is history. I met Kit that very first night, and some of the other people who I actually am still close friends with today. And we won the TYT citywide city competition, and then we were also working together in Wolfpack to get a resolution passed in the Illinois House and Senate to basically get a convention of the states to get money out of politics to overturn Roe v. Wade. So we won that initiative together. And I think that when you win stuff together, like friendships last. So yeah. So then I was actually at a Women in Cannabis thing. And, they had actually asked me when they were in the radio station to come and talk and be a guest, commentator a few times here and there. But then I ran into them at a Women in Cannabis event, and I was like, yo, what's up? And they asked me at that event if I would mind being a regular host on the show. And I was like, yes, I would love to do that. And yeah, and so I've been doing that since August of 2019. So I'm coming up on my second year of doing that on every Wednesday night.
So that was from the glory days of TYT. Hey, let's say that I guess TYT was good for something in bringing people together and inspiring them in the beginning.
Absolutely. It was, I was listening to them in 2009 when I got started, and
we all were. I think a lot of us were inspired on the progressive left because they were the voices before they sadly sold out. But at least there's a legacy of other independent progressive voices now that I think got into this because they saw them take the lead, and now others have taken the lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, there's definitely something to be said about that, being the first in anything. There's something to be said about that. And I just remember it's so funny, so wild, randomly meeting, what got me involved with the US Uncut. I literally stumbled into it. Somebody who was in like a TYT community that I was a part of in 2009 was like, hey, I'm doing this thing outside of the Bank of America at, 6 Points in Wicker Park. Who wants to come? And I was like, I'll show up, and I made little signs and stuff and showed up, and there were like 5 people there. And I was like, oh, geez. And thus began my hardcore political activism career, mostly because I was like, man, these people really need me. Like I can't not show up because I'm 20% of everybody that's going to show up.
Well, yeah, it's important when everybody shows up to represent. I remember I think my first forays into activism here in Chicago were Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street. When protesters got together in Chicago, down on LaSalle Street, I participated in a few marches with some friends. Then they had the NATO protest. I don't know how many. I think I've shared. Well, yeah, I've shared this with you. I don't know how many people know this about me, but I'm disabled. I'm an amputee, so I walk with an artificial leg. Most of the time, I'm on crutches when I'm around the house. But it became a little bit difficult to become as physically active as I wanted to be in protest with marching and participating downtown. So I ended up tossing my hat in the ring when I saw progressive candidates running here for mayor in Chicago, I volunteered as Amara Enya's media producer on her first campaign.
Awesome.
And I produced a lot of her media when she was introduced to the city. And then after she dropped out of the first race, she ended up becoming a consultant for Bob Fioretti's campaign, another progressive city council member, who asked Amara, we really liked all your media. And she's pointed to me. She's like, that's the guy who did it. And so Fioretti hired me. And I like Fioretti and I liked Amara. I wasn't completely thrilled with what happened on her second campaign. So, towards the end there, some things that ended up being disclosed to the public. I think she had a lot of great ideas, but it really got me kind of into, what do we want to say, more in the political landscape, being around more people involved as they were running for mayor, being on the inside, hearing things, learning things. So that kind of gave me, I think, the confidence to approach Daniel and Kit and say, look, I'm very politically astute. I'm a news junkie. This stuff's very important to me. So how can I contribute to Hardlands Media if you need team members? And thankfully, they've brought us all together this way. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm really happy to be working with you also, having seen you on the regular show. And I love your energy, Kira. Before we went on, we were talking about your infectious laugh. It lights up the room to get people comfortable.
It's very funny because, I live inside of this meat sack, right? And so I'm like, everywhere I go, there I am. So a lot of times I'm not aware of like how much energy I'll bring to a space until someone's like, wow, you're really energetic, aren't you?
You're all firecrackers, they would say. I
guess I am. It just, that feels like the normal level of like appropriateness to me. But I get it all the time. I go to a networking event and people are like, wow, okay. Like,
people just got to loosen up and be themselves. I think we're always worried, well, what are people going to think of us if we're truly ourselves? But I think those that appreciate the genuine qualities of a person are not going to judge us. And I've kind of crawled out of my shell a little bit that way too. I think even in some of the early broadcasts here, I was like, very stiff, very professional, but I hope the more people get to know me, I'm kind of, my sarcasm and my sense of humor comes out too. And as I told Jose in our broadcast this past Tuesday, if you're not going to laugh about the stuff we're talking about, you'd be crying because it's so crazy. And we've got to
absolutely
roll with the punches as we cover what we're covering and offer our commentary and thoughts on, what we feel is going on in the city and everywhere.
Yeah, and everywhere, right? Yeah, I remember. I think for me, a lot of it was more anger than anything else. Like I remember there was one point, my boyfriend at the time, my now husband, but he had said to me at one point when we early in our dating time together, he's like, wow, he's like, you really like being angry, don't you? I'm like, what are you talking about?
I don't think we like being angry. I think so here's the thing, and I've shared this, I think, with Kit and Daniel. I discovered them because they interviewed Jimmy Dore, who's a hero of mine. And Jimmy Dore communicates the outrage I know that we all feel, but we don't feel that we can express. And here's the guy who's a comedian. And more often than less, we discover that comedians can get away with this stuff. Comedians are the greatest truth tellers because no one's going to hold them as accountable because, they say it in fun. But when you get deep down to it, what they're saying is truth.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because it's true, right?
Exactly,
like an element of it is true, right?
And Jimmy's outrage comes out, and I within my own family, we have some quite spirited political conversations, and people always tell me, "Why are you so angry? Why are you so outraged?" And I ask them, "Why aren't you?"
Yeah.
When you see what's going on, I don't want to be outraged. I don't think anybody's happy about being angry. I think we want to live calmer lives. I think we want to be more, copacetic about these things. But man, when you're told, well, exercise your vote and you do it and nothing happens, and then you engage as an activist and nothing happens, we all start to come together and say, if the peaceful things we do in our communication isn't working, obviously they're not listening. And this is what gets people louder.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone wants to be loud, but when you have no other choice to get people to listen, that's what happens, I think.
Yeah. To be fair, I think that I actually really did like being angry. I think there was something I think there was something like delicious about it for me. And after just a lot of like personal work, because that anger sort of like, came out in other areas of my life that weren't healthy, right? And in my own system to boot, I've definitely like calmed down around the outrage that is our our news. And now for some reason my system reacts to it in like joviality, if that's a word, like
Sure.
in being like funny, because it's almost like the only other reactionary like direction I can go in. Or I could cry, right? And I usually get all the cries out before I get on camera. I mean, I don't think I'm an ugly crier or anything like that, but I do take time to put makeup on before the show. So
I guess the anger and the outrage, we can, I guess, leave it at this. It's a more productive place to direct it when we're focused on civic and events, civic news, politics, and what's happening around us that we talk about. Yeah,
absolutely. Anger is a great driver of action. And I think that's probably one of the reasons I've been so active, is because I've had a lot of that outrage and anger. And I know that the healthy thing to do is to like take action on it. It's also the more optimistic thing to do. Like I think that taking action inside of like politics and our just civics in general shows a certain level of optimism. That it may not seem that way or look that way when you're saying damn it, like everything is going to hell. But really, I think the true sign of like basically like not caring anymore, apathy, giving up, is literally not doing anything. And when I hit that space, like everybody will know. So,
well, I think it also comes down to many people are not able to deal with people expressing themselves, people's anger. It makes them very uncomfortable.
Yes.
So when I lived in Los Angeles, and that was a long time ago, I was there from 1996 through 2007. I was very blessed to have a friendship with an actor who's no longer with us, named Richard Hatch, who used to star in Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
And Richard and I became very good friends. He was, I did some editing for him. I hung out with him. We'd go to movies amongst other people, other friends around us. And I went through kind of a bad slump out there. And a lot of people would accuse me of being negative. And they'd be uncomfortable when I would express my anger or my outrage about things. And Richard, said to me that people would want to deny you your ability to express yourself says a lot about them. Why would you want to shut somebody up? Even if it makes you uncomfortable, you shouldn't. Just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean that you should expect other people to be silent and not express themselves. It's a very selfish thing. Being angry or outraged is not selfish. You feel like you need to be heard, and where others are uncomfortable with it, it's their insecurities and their inability to deal and process things that then, bounces back to you to make you feel like you're the crazy one. So, God rest his soul. He was a good guy. And that's just one of the many things that always stays with me whenever I get angry and I worry about people being uncomfortable with me expressing myself about things that I feel are important that we need to focus on. I always remember Richard in my ear. You know what? Nobody should deny you your outrage and your anger and your feelings. That's what it was. No one should deny you your feelings. So obviously that factors a lot into what we do, because I think we're empaths, very tuned into our consciences.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love what you said there, because there are so many times that I've gotten animated about something in just a regular conversation in regards to our politics. And people are like, oh, maybe we should stop talking about this. I'm like, why?
Right? Yeah, exactly. That's
why? Because you're angry. Damn right I'm angry, aren't you?
You've just described every family gathering I participate in. Anyway, I find it fantastic that I could get to know a little bit more about your background. And I'm going to bring Kip on some night, because he may have talked about his background on the on the regular Hard Lens Media show, but knowing that he is a former Marine and hearing now how you hooked up with him as an activist, I haven't had as much of a chance to get to know more about Kit's background, but I'm sure it's as fascinating as engaging as what you shared with us. So thanks for taking some time to tell our viewers more about your background.
My pleasure. And there's so much more, and I'm excited, Jerry, that you and I are gonna get to work together and just learn and also dive into like our fair city and what's going on here, because Chicago's really, I grew up a military brat, and so I've never really had like a home the way that I see Chicago being my home. It's the place I've lived longest in my entire life. And I think that my activism, especially once I started bringing it down to a smaller level, really showed that or a more local level, I should say, really showed that connection I started having with the city of Chicago.
I think we're both going to have a lot more personal stories to share as we co-host together. So let me, I think we're going to probably go over tonight, and that's no problem with me because I like talking. I love this kind of conversation, but we do want to cover some of the week's top stories. And I feel it kind of was a slow news week. As I was pairing through what happened this week, I was trying to select some things that I thought would be interesting topics of conversation that we can, express some of our thoughts on. But let me start with our first story that comes from Block Club Chicago. I was going to try to bring up the story on the web screen. Unfortunately, my computer is really wonky tonight, and I didn't want the buffer to maybe interrupt our broadcast. So I'll just read from what I printed out. Right. Our first story coming from Block Club Chicago and Justin Lawrence. Mayor Lightfoot's plan to ban alcohol sales after 10 p.m. is dead on arrival, aldermen say. You can't kneecap a whole industry of mostly independent small businesses because of anecdotal concerns about quality of life, one expert said. The controversial late-night ban of alcohol sales at grocery and liquor stores introduced by Mayor Lori Lightfoot is going nowhere in City Council, an alderman said, and more officials are pushing back on the measure. Last week, Lightfoot proposed a package of reforms meant to help struggling businesses recover from the pandemic. I would say maybe that would include letting liquor stores stay open after 10, but amid the proposal was a 10 p.m. curfew of beer, liquor, and wine sales at stores with a packaged goods license, which would primarily be liquor, convenience, and grocery stores. The change would ban alcohol sales from 10 a.m. to 7 a.m. daily. It is similar to a temporary curfew that was created during the pandemic to discourage gatherings, city officials said. The proposal was instantly controversial, and it continues to face stiff resistance inside and outside City Council. Downtown Alderman Brendan Riley of the 42nd Ward declared the plan dead Saturday. For those concerned, there will not be a 10 p.m. liquor sales moratorium in Chicago. That is 100% dead on arrival in City Council, Riley tweeted. Either the mayor pulls it or we kill it. That said, have a happy and safe Memorial Day weekend.
Responsibly. I thought that was a really funny comment. I was like, I wonder if he meant to be really tongue-in-cheek with that. But
he had to be. I mean, that's kind of, that's his, as Mayor Lightfoot likes to toss around, it starts with F, ends with U, back at her. For those concerned, there will not be a 10 p.m. liquor sales moratorium in Chicago, 10% dead on arrival. Lightfoot and top city officials have defended the proposal while conceding they are open to negotiation. At an unrelated event last week, Lightfoot said her administration was willing to talk about the proposal, but she held firm the curfew was needed, describing it as a quality of life issue. We will work with them to see where we can reach an accommodation, but they've got to step up and they've got to be better actors in these communities, Lightfoot said. No one should have to suffer because of liquor sales that stretch into the early morning hours that then become a real magnet for problems in neighborhoods. Rosa Escareno, the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Commissioner, told the Sun-Times the proposal was a starting point, not a done deal. I want to hear the businesses. I embrace what they're telling me, but we have to make the issues that our residents are bringing us central to this conversation, she said. Before Riley declared the legislation a non-starter, he took a more measured tone Tuesday, saying he hopes to strike the right balance on the measure in negotiations between City Council and Lightfoot. On and on and on. But for now, it's dead. Kira, a toast.
Cheers.
Dead on arrival.
DOA. I bought this this liquor at a liquor store. Actually, my husband did. I did no such thing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I rarely drink. I've got this in the fridge for guests, but
I drink frequently. And this guests can come over and drink with me anytime.
Toast to Chicago. No
Toast
10 p.m. liquor curfew.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, what the F? I mean, you were talking about, we've had businesses struggling. They're finally reopening. Now we got to play Elliott Ness and limit liquor sales at 10 p.m. when I don't know what the data shows as far as how liquor sales sold in the evening might affect crime stats. And I should have spent some more time looking into that. Maybe you know about that. I don't, but
I had so many more questions after reading this article than I had answers or even opinions. So here's I'm just going to go with it, because I think one thing that I do a good job of is huh? First of all, from what I understand, and I may not be understanding it right, but from what I understand, this was in a broader omnibus bill of certain things that they were trying to do basically to ignite business after a pandemic. So inside of that, talking about loitering or all of the issues that are brought about because of liquor stores, I don't see how that has anything to do with the economy personally, where it's just wait, are we talking about the economy or are we talking about crime? Because I feel like we started out talking about a bill in regards to helping bolster the economy, but then it ended up being a conversation about quality of life, whatever that means, and so there's just a lot of murkiness for me around the purpose of this, because initially when I was reading this and I went and I read the other parts of the bill that it's a part of, and I guess it just doesn't seem to fit, which is whatever. But if you're going to say that it's about economy, the first place my mind went was okay, well, if liquor stores are closed from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., where are people going to go to drink, right? Well, they'll buy their liquor before 10 p.m., I guess, and drink at home. But let's be real, what's actually going to happen is more people are going to go to bars. And so one of the things that I thought of is this a way to bolster bar patronage after, the Chicago bar and restaurant scene got hit. I think there are 65 permanent closings of bars and restaurants in the city as of February of this year. And so I thought maybe that's what this is about. And, I went and I tried to find the increase of liquor sales, since COVID, because I do know that I read a ton of stories about how liquor sales had actually gone up. So I was is Lightfoot trying to take from one area that's been doing really, really well and administer it to another area, which would be it would be an argument for it, but it's sense. Not even mentioned in the why of this initiative. I guess.
If I might interject, we've both been out. I drive late at night. There we go. People are anxious to go out. Yeah. I don't think limiting alcohol sales at 10 p.m. is going to have any effect on people going to bars, as they've been stuck in quarantine for an entire year. Everybody's going out. Every bar that's open is probably doing everything they can to draw people. So I just think it's kind of a nanny state mindset that she's got. Your theory actually makes sense, but knowing how many people are going out and want to get out of the houses and go to bars, I think that if she was thinking that as a reason to propose this, she obviously didn't think through it as well as you just presented.
No. Yeah, I mean, it's like so many things I feel like that she proposes, where it just leaves me more baffled and confused than really giving me answers. And inside of that, I'm just well, I don't really know what to think of that. Is it is that the effort or isn't it? But the fact that she didn't mention that effort has me believing that it's more along the lines of what you mentioned, because that was also one of my initial reactions, was like, wow, this is a really overbearing, overreaching a demand, especially because right now it's the alderpersons who
we'll get to that in a little bit.
Who are really in charge of saying like what goes and what doesn't goes as far as their liquor sales and consumption in their specific wards, which I tend to align with far more, because each ward has its own needs, and each alderperson is going to be more keen on what is needed and where it's needed. So yeah, that's kind of where I went with all this.
I wonder if some of her mindset goes into being prepared or thinking in advance if any more civil unrest happens this summer. I don't know. Does she think that alcohol contributes to it? It obviously doesn't. Activists aren't getting drunk and going out and causing problems.
And it would be an insult to think that alcohol is the root of that issue.
Absolutely. I in total agreement. But, with her raising the bridges like the city is a castle with a moat around it, who can put anything past her these days as far as what her reasoning is? She went and reopened. She went and reopened the beaches for the summer. Did you see her latest video? She loves her little viral videos ever since she became a meme at the beginning of COVID. The video was her at the beaches with the barricades, and she pushes the barricade and she says, "Welcome back, beaches."
OMG. That's so awesome and hilarious.
She's so cringe. She's so cringe with all the other shit that she does. Welcome back, beaches.
Oh man. There's a part of me that loves it. I gotta say, I'm sorry, like I might be in the minority, but I think that's pretty funny.
it's entertaining. Look, some of the things that she did was entertaining until we started to peel away layers of the onion and see how other things that she was doing that completely betrayed what her progressive promises to the city. You know, and she's kind of relishing in the celebrity. And I think maybe what's entertaining about it is she just seems like such a what is it? She just doesn't seem in her element when she does it. She just seems, it doesn't seem natural to her, even though
it's like pandering, right?
Yeah, it's pandering. She's trying to be funny, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of funny, but given everything else that's going down, that's not gonna make everybody forget all the other stuff that she's doing that we're upset about.
Yeah. Especially during this last summer and all that. Yeah.
Well. Yeah, we're going to talk about our newly christened alderpersons after we talk about this other story. We spoke a few shows back about Jean-Baptiste Pointe-du-Sable Drive, which the aldermen want to change the name. Now, we have news from Jake Wittich via Block Club Chicago. Dateline Boystown, Chicago, Lakeview. Goodbye, Boystown. After Lakeview Strip rebranded to be more inclusive, banners now welcome visitors to Northalsted. Lakeview's Boystown banners were replaced after critics said the nickname didn't represent women and non-binary people. Banners promoting Chicago's North Side LBQT enclave as Boystown have been removed following months of efforts to formally ditch the nickname for not being inclusive of women and non-binary people, after decades of trying to be inclusive of LBQT people. That's my addition. The Boystown banners hung from lampposts along the strip of North Halsted Street from Belmont Avenue to Irving Park Road were replaced over the weekend. The new banners were installed Friday, branding the area as North Halsted, Chicago's proudest neighborhood. The change comes several months after business leaders from the North Halsted Business Alliance, the neighborhood's local chamber of commerce, announced they would stop using the Boystown name in their marketing materials. I don't know if they did any kind of public outreach to see how the community felt about that before making that decision. We'll get to that and see if that comes up more, and if that's referenced in the article. Devlin Camp, a local non-binary activist and podcast producer, praised the banners coming down as a symbolic step, but Camp said more progress is needed to make the neighborhood truly welcoming for all LBQT people. This is a great first step, but let's see some more work done to keep improving on the neighborhood, Camp said. The Northalsted Business Alliance hasn't released any other actions that they plan to take in their businesses to actually make them more welcoming to trans and queer people of color as employees or customers. I guess the banners are supposed to accommodate that without any actual action on the streets. That work should include completing the diversity and inclusion training the board members started but never finished in February of 2020, and that could have been because of the pandemic, as well as diversifying the Northalsted Business Alliance's board, which is comprised of all white men, except for 2 members who are Black and South Asian, Camp said. Overall, what would be most helpful is if they release a list of changes they pledge to make and a date by which they'll be effective, Camp said. That will show us they're actually doing something and help with accountability. That just like makes me think about City Council and Lakeshore Drive and let's change the name. What are you guys actually doing to like help the communities instead of like these pandering efforts of just of distractions? We're going to rename this so everything's okay. Social justice. Chicago's LBQT neighborhood has grappled with several highly publicized instances of racism or other discrimination in the neighborhood in recent years, including in 2019 when Progress Bar attempted to implement a ban on rap music and costume store Beatniks was selling a Confederate flag vest. Amid broader social justice movements last year, thousands of protesters marched through the neighborhood during the drag queen-led Drag March for Change, where they demanded an end to racism and discrimination within the neighborhood. A follow-up march is planned for June 13th. A Lincoln Park racial justice group has launched an effort to grade several area nonprofits on how equitable they are for Black queer people. Representatives from the Northalsted Business Alliance did not immediately return requests for comment. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, but before we discuss it, how our civic leaders feel the need to change names everywhere at the what's the word, the pushback from residents in the community, right? I don't think anybody in the Northalsted community wanted to see Boystown's name changed, as we've had the discussion about the traditional iconic Lakeshore Drive. Now, this comes from Aaron Haggerty, the Daily Line. City Council. Change from alderman to alderperson gets mixed response in City Council. Isn't it interesting? Mm-hmm. What's good for us isn't good for them, right? So they want to implement a name change. They don't want that, even though they're pushing all these other name changes on a traditional, historic Northside neighborhood, Boystown, and changing Lakeshore Drive, which is as iconic as Broadway in New York City, to honor Jean-Baptiste Pointe-du-Sable, who has been honored. And I would argue there are many ways to honor this man historically and that have nothing to do with race. It's like he was a historic figure. Replace the Columbus statue with a statue of Jean-Baptiste Pointe-du-Sable. I think that would eliminate the genocidal history of Columbus. But as we talk about the elder people, Alderman Jeanette Taylor noted the change is about identity, but Alderman Pat Dowell said she prefers to keep the title Alderman. Chicago elected officials aired mixed reactions to an omnibus election bill, S-8-825, on its way to Governor J.B. Pritzker's desk that is set to change all official references to municipal elected officials from alderman to alderperson. Some aldermen are thrilled with the change, others are lukewarm, and some don't see the changes included in the bill as necessary. Boystown. Lakeshore Drive. The change from alderman to alderperson is part of a measure that also pushes the state's 2022 primary election from March 15th to June 28th, designates Election Day as a state's holiday, and allows voting in jails. The push to move away from alderman previously bubbled when Alderman Andre Vasquez of the 40th introduced a resolution in March calling for the General Assembly to pass legislation replacing word alderman in all places within Illinois compiled statutes. So, Vasquez is the guy who's pushing for all these name changes. Now, let's also be fair. City Council didn't have anything to do with what happened up in Boystown, but I just thought that it was interesting with these name changes that are very, very superficial, and the people behind, making these name changes without actually doing anything on the ground to make things better. The resolution was originally proposed for City Council Committee on Health and Human Relations. Alderman Ed Burke of the 14th. Why is he still alderman? He's supposed to be in jail. Sent the proposal to the Council's Committee on Committees and Rules. Anyway, everybody gets the hypocrisy of the whole Chicago name game, as I'm going to start calling it. And I filibustered enough sharing the news. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is one of those conversations where I just like, I don't know, like the sticky situation I'm going to get myself into here, being that like, I kind of don't care. Like in a lot of ways, like the term Boystown never really like bothered me. All the term alderman doesn't really bother me. So having said that, like I really don't have a dog in those fights at all. Having said that, I usually will, like take a step back for populations that have been traditionally like why am I blanking on the word marginalized, right?
Yep.
And so, I am not authentically a part of the LGBTQIA community. I consider myself a heterosexual woman. And I'm white to boot. So there's a part of me that's just like, like I really don't feel like I have much of a say on this topic because like it doesn't really like impact me, affect me, or bother me. And at the same time, because I'm not in those populations, there'd be no reason for it to really impact me or bother me. And it also doesn't like really bug me to have name changes. And it's kind of what you pointed to, Jerry, which is like, it doesn't actually affect any kind of like change in the way the city does anything. And so, even though it doesn't sound very like, I don't have a firm stance on this. I think I would just step back and say, well, if there are older people who are women who are offended by that name, then they should speak up and really push to get the name changed. Like I'm first of all, I'm not an alderperson. Secondly, if I was, I think I would be where that who was the alderperson that said it didn't bother her. She's like, I really don't care. And then you have someone else saying like, I really don't like the term alder because it refers to age, and someone being an elder. And that's also really not the case. So basically what we're hearing is that a lot of our terminology is outdated. And I also like stand in that like language does matter, but I fail to see how changing these names actually impacts anything in a real way. So like, again, like I feel like every story today is just like, I actually ended up having more like questions and confusion than anything firmly like, here's what I think about this, because I don't care.
Well, it is really a matter of opinion.
I should
more than
care.
anything. No, but so okay, so I'm a traditionalist, right? I would still refer to what is it, Cellular Field as Comiskey Park. I would refer to the Sears Tower.
Sears Tower, Willis Tower, totally.
And civic leaders wasting time and resources to change names that don't need to be changed. I would say if aldermen, alderpersons, alderwomen, whatever, want to be called one thing or another, do they really have to waste time passing a law? Do they really have to pass ordinances how they're supposed to be addressed? You're all civic leaders serving in city council. Call city councilman, city councilwoman, alderman, alderwoman. What is all this wasted time, wasted precious time, whether it's the proposal to change the name to Alderperson, to change Lakeshore Drive, civic leaders up in Northalsted changing I don't know that anybody in Boystown was offended by being called Boystown. So why is
they
this?
Didn't mention anybody in the article that was like up in arms about it,
Well, the article even cites that it's meant to be able to be more inclusive of women and non-binary people. I don't know that any women or non-binary people, at least the article doesn't reference that they were all screaming, hey, we got to change Boystown. We have Boystown, we got Chinatown, we got Greektown. These are communities that are populated by a specific cultural demographic, and it is what it is, and it's tradition, and it's what we traditionally called them. as a progressive, I never imagined I would ever hear myself with these opinions, because there used to be a time that social justice was a good term. But I feel that social justice has been twisted in a way now that it's not logical. And it's used in a way, we need social justice, we need equity, we need people to be equal, right? But those that have used social justice to get the rights and the attention and the respect that they are due, now that they're elevated, they want to be above others. So they're using that social justice sword to stay above people, not stay even and equitable. Once I hope would have finally found a level of balance and respect amongst everybody. So that's just again, all opinions, right? Might be an unpopular opinion, but I've always been on the side of social justice until I started to see how social justice politics and identity politics have been used to knock others down, not fight for equity. And I think that's where the disconnect seems to come. And I just find it so ironic that the aldermen are all up in arms now about how they're going to be renamed, when they're, at the head of the pack wanting to rename traditional neighborhoods or localities in Chicago that don't need to be changed, that nobody asked to be changed, to pander. Oh, we're so, we're going to honor Jean-Baptiste Pointe-Toussaint because that makes us special. We're what's the word that they use? Not social justice, but not the identity politics, but I forgot the phrase. Man, I'm having a senior moment now.
It's the drinks.
Pardon me?
Yeah. Drink a couple more of these and be driven to activism in a moment.
Down to my Mike's lemonade, black cherry. Well, they're pandering. It's virtue signaling. That's the word I want.
Virtue signaling. Okay.
You're virtue signaling. We did this. We changed Lakeshore Drive to Jean-Baptiste Pointe-Toussaint Drive. So that means we're respecting Black people, Haitians, people of color. Yeah. What are you doing forcing Mayor Lightfoot to distribute TIF funds in these neighborhoods on the south and west sides to improve the communities and build infrastructure so that the communities of color are actually given a hand up, not a handout? So
yeah, I'll take it.
Virtue signaling is what really starts to grind my gears here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that these kind of identity politics are just a distraction, whether it's like part of some nefarious plan to be distracting or not. It is very much a distraction. And to your point, I'll take it a little bit of a step further, and the march that they're doing to end hate. Last time I checked, protests are not effective in ending hate. And so I really do think that there are actions that can be taken where there's a lot of energy being put in certain areas, organizing a march or changing names, to create this facade of equity and equality, when really there's so much more that should be and could be done.
Equity and equality. Stop wasting precious time changing the name of Lakeshore Drive, making sure that there's an ordinance and how alder people are referenced, and find some goddamn housing for all of these poor people who are living in tent cities underneath bridges downtown. Right? We have so much empty property. When I drive downtown,
there's plenty of housing.
It breaks my heart, Kira. I see people sleeping in bags, in tents. I had been a volunteer with the night ministry many, many years ago, and I have a friend who is actually, I might start volunteering again now that I got some free time on my hands, because as I've been driving around, I'm just like, it's still here. This stuff's still happening. Where's the attention and time investment in solving that problem? It's embarrassing. They're veterans, they're mentally ill people, and a blind eyes just turn all of them. I drive through Lower Wacker and I imagine, goddamn, if I had several $1 million, I would try to create some kind of an organization that literally has a van that would drive through Lower Wacker Drive and pick people up and take them somewhere and say, what are your skills? How can we help you? How can we give you some shelter while we have these programs now to train you? which is what all of this effort and financial resources that the city has, because we are not broke, should be going towards. So that's a whole other conversation. But, as we see the folly of the distractions that come from this nonsense with name changes and the identity politics and the virtue signaling, you want a virtue signal? Find housing for all the people living on Lower Wacker Drive and under every overpass and bridge in the city. And then I'll believe that you actually are worried about implementing some changes to people, as opposed to superficial bullshit. Let's change the name. And we've honored Chicago's first settler, who ended up leaving Chicago anyway. It's
well, and then tell your developer friends that they should start creating affordable housing inside of like all of these luxury, condos and stuff that they're building, because like I said, it's not for a lack of housing. We have plenty of housing. They're just vacant. And
real estate developers downtown, it's like, as I see more and more built, I'm like, who the hell can afford to live in these buildings downtown when we have a job crisis? I mean, I know that we've got a 1%, but the rest of the 99% that's struggling with their regular property taxes to live everywhere else in the city. And meanwhile, you're seeing, places bulldozed in these new condo complexes. I'm just like, and a lot of them are empty, even though they're developed and built. So, it's, I think maybe I'm on to, and we need to dedicate a show to the homeless crisis here in Chicago and housing crisis. Something we can really prepare for and have maybe even more of a discussion, bring Jose into it and have like multiple windows talking about this, because it's so sorely needed.
It really is. And it's only gonna get worse if nothing is done about it. I mean, they're just off the top of my head, and I'm not even an expert in the field, I can think of plenty of ways to get those spaces filled. I mean, definitely.
Well, as we're talking about helping the homeless, let's shift into a very similar demographic, the indigent. Our last story, I was inspired to select this story to cover because I have a very good friend who is a Cook County public defender. And I see the time that she dedicates and commits to serving people that cannot afford legal counsel in Chicago. And I know what that's like, because I've had to spend a lot of money on legal bills myself to advocate and protect my rights in different areas. IP rights and being defrauded by people. And anytime I got to step up to advocate for my rights, to basically prosecute people who've wronged me, it costs a lot of money. Yeah. So you can imagine when you've got people who are arrested that have no means to defend themselves properly. The Cook County Public Defender's Office is there to aid them and give them the best possible defense, I think is possible, knowing my friend who is as dedicated and tells me stories. I mean, let me also share this. There are clients that she has that are completely disrespectful to her and don't recognize how lucky they are to have a public defender advocating for their rights in court. So this story comes to us from Injustice Watch, though it was reported through Block Club Chicago, from Josh McGee. Cook County's new public defender seeks more visibility and money for his office. A better funded public defender's office could be a leader in the fight for equity and justice, Sharon Mitchell said. Public defenders put a mirror to the system and say that this isn't working for us. Public defenders are often depicted on TV as bungling, overworked, and uncaring. But that didn't stop Sharon Mitchell Jr. from wanting to join the Cook County Public Defender's Office after graduating from DePaul University College of Law in 2009. While being a public defender might not seem like glamorous work, he found it fulfilling. I got the opportunity to go in court and represent people who may have had the worst day of their lives, Mitchell said. And if we didn't get ourselves involved, that worst decision of their lives would follow them for the rest of their lives. In March, Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle selected Mitchell to replace former public defender Amy Campanelli. It marked a return to the office for Mitchell, who served as an assistant public defender from 2010 to 2016. Before rejoining the office, Mitchell was director of the Illinois Justice Project, a nonprofit policy and advocacy group. He played a prominent role in the successful fight to eliminate cash bail, working with dozens of community organizations and lawmakers who pushed for the historic criminal justice reform bill that passed the Illinois legislature in January. Mitchell said he wants to use his new position to make the case that a more powerful public defender's office is just as important to structural change in the criminal justice system as ending cash bail or reducing the police department's budget. The stakes are high. Public defenders play a critical role in the criminal court system by representing clients who can't afford a private attorney, about 4 out of every 5 defendants in the Cook County Circuit Court, according to Campanelli. The vast majority of the public defender's clients are Black and Latinx, reflecting a court system that disproportionately prosecutes people of color. But the public defender's office has struggled to attain the same level of visibility and funding as its opposition across the courtroom, the state's attorney's office. Mitchell said that power and resource imbalance reflects a system that has relied on punishment and incarceration rather than focusing on fixing the root causes of poverty, crime, and violence, as we just discussed. I think that the public defender's office and our community partners stand for the proposition that this system has not worked and that this over-reliance on incarceration has not kept us safe, he said. Mitchell said a better funded public defender's office with a seat at the proverbial table would be a leader in the fight for equity and justice. Public defenders put a mirror to the system and they say that this isn't working for us, Mitchell said. Cook County spends far more on prosecuting criminal cases than it does on public defense. That budget disparity is common in large justice systems, and it means that public defenders have large caseloads and spend less time on each client, which leads to worse outcomes for defendants, according to research. A 2020 study from the University of Illinois at Chicago's Institute for Research on Race and Public Policy found that in U.S. counties in which public defenders and support staff have larger caseloads, defendants are more likely to be detained pre-trial. In counties with smaller caseloads for support staff, felony defendants received shorter sentences. In counties with smaller caseloads for support staff, felony defendants received shorter sentences. The study comprised 11 large urban U.S. counties, not including Cook County. Cook County.
Freudian slip, right?
Yeah. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office had a budget of $176 million in fiscal year 2021 compared to the public defender's budget of about $80 million. That's more than twice. In addition to the general funds that it receives from Cook County, the state's attorney's budget includes money that it receives through forfeitures and $39 million in federal, state, and private grants. The public defender's office hasn't raised $1 million in grants in any year in the last decade, according to an analysis of county budgets by Injustice Watch. The two offices have different functions, missions, and needs, which account for the budget disparities, Parkwinkle said in an emailed statement. I don't know that has anything to do with the privatized prison system we have, but right? Cook County, incarcerating more to feed that beast. Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox, who said she sees Mitchell as an ally in criminal justice reform work, said part of the funding disparity is explained by the role that the state's attorney's office plays outside the criminal courtroom, including defending the county against civil lawsuits, which is a whole other...
Killing cops, you mean? Yeah. Those civil lawsuits? Is that what you're talking about?
You mean the ones where we're paying out on all the police abuse and violence and killings and murders because
those ones.
They're above the law? Yeah. They all think that they're Judge Dredd. Any comparison of the two offices' budgets has to take into account differences in the scope of their work, she said, but she agreed that the public defender's office should be well-resourced. Almost coming to the end here. When resources are overburdened or overwhelmed, it takes a toll on their clients, Fox said. If you don't have an attorney who is giving you their full attention, able to do the necessary research, you're not getting effective counsel. Resource-wise, prosecutors are in a position to outgun the defense every time, Davies said. So,
I think this is an important story to highlight. I like you actually personally know public defenders. I taught fitness in downtown buildings for 10 years. And so I got to know a lot of the women who work as public defenders, and it's exhausting and extremely thankless. And in fact, I went ahead and I looked up, some pay that the pay of these public defenders. And I saw anything from Glassdoor.com, it said $50K to $110K, salary.com, $48K to $73K annually, and $44K
teachers
to $99K. That's exactly what I was going to compare to.
Underpaid like teachers. The most important people in our society are underpaid and never appreciated, that serve educating our children so that they have the opportunities and the brains to do something good with their lives. And then the public defenders who are there to like clean up the mess when the money's going everywhere else but the communities to provide opportunities and education.
And those public defenders are paying for things out of pocket too. I think that the article mentioned that they were actually paying for certain services out of pocket because it wasn't provided, like administrative work. And it's just like, okay, so you're not really getting paid all that well, especially considering what your education costs you average 40 grand annually to get that law degree, you know? And so it's very parallel to that of teachers. And it is also a vital, like teachers, a vital role in actually creating community where, you know, crime is actually going down instead of going up, or creating like recidivism that wouldn't have been there had these people been properly taken care of in our legal system. So
priorities. Our priorities are mismanaged from the municipal city hall level with the budget, where the money goes, and then we're spending more money. We're not spending more money to clean it up. We spend more money creating the problems than we could to prevent them. And then privatized prisons make a killing off of all of the prosecuted people that are sent there, that are making shitloads of money off of what the state and federal level are paying them. So, I mean, we know that Chicago. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then people are like, "Oh, there's so much more crime. We need to put more money into our police," you know, and so it also feeds that beast as well.
Yeah, I have a lot of people I speak with who, whether it's on a national level when we talk about defense spending, or a local level with the police. Well, national level, we have to spend the government's got to spend that much money on military defense. Otherwise, we'd be invaded by other countries. We have to spend that much money on the police, because who are you going to call if someone's breaking into your home? People operate so much from fear, thinking that the money that's spent to give them this sense of security and protection, which is what gives them comfort, completely fail to see the larger picture of the ripple effect of the things we're talking about here, as far as where money can go to prevent crime, to provide more foundation for people, and lessen a drift into bad choices, because there is no social safety net for so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I said, I think this is such a good story to highlight, because one of the things that has gotten a lot of attention in recent years is, eliminating bail for nonviolent offenders. And I was actually a part of that effort back in 2017. My years are a little like wonky most of the time. I have no
Is it this?
Yeah, I know. It's all gone. I have no concept of time generally, but that was such a big deal in reducing crime, because then people aren't being held in prison for, I mean, I think a day is too long, but people were being held on bail for nonviolent offenses for years. And what that does to a person and their family is really scary, really disgusting. It's so expensive to be a part of the system, because not only are you not bringing in any income for your family, you are getting charged out the nose for doing anything inside of that system. I wish I had the numbers right off the top of my head now, but I know that it costs a boatload of money to even make a phone call. And so, and then you have, of course, and then you're of course being treated like a criminal the entire time you're in there.
Yeah, because you haven't even had an opportunity to answer for what you're charged with.
Yeah, and what do we think that breeds? What do we think trauma breeds in society? And so I think I like that you brought this story to my attention, but that we're bringing it to the broader attention, because what that guy Mitchell says in that article is like, this is as much a piece to like criminal justice reform as divesting in police and putting money elsewhere, as eliminating cash bail. Like getting public defenders to be resourced and paid well is also a massive step in the direction of criminal justice in our city.
This is not a black and white issue is the problem. People see it as a black and white issue. There is so much gray area that people are.
Cat butt.
Yeah. Okay. They don't get to see that side of you.
I'm shocked my cat hasn't walked in front of the screen yet. Not yet.
How many do you have?
Just one. Just the one.
I've got 3. This is the one who's least camera shy.
Little ham.
Yeah, he is a little ham. He's a sweetheart. But yeah, the problem we talk about people needing the sense of security is that it's just black and white to them. Cops good, crime bad. That's why we need it. We can't help these people. It's like, no, when you see how we're divested from the solutions to lowering these other problems without people making obscene amounts of money off of mass incarcerations, maybe there could be some change, but I guess I'm dreaming.
Well, we can all dream, can't we? We can all dream.
As I told Jose, I'm going to start using the expression, it's Chicago town, baby.
Yeah,
like it's
absolutely.
Chinatown. It's just
absolutely
the Chicago way. That's the other phrase we always use here.
Well, that's right. That's why I was excited about contributing to the show, because I'm going to be in the dark here soon, so we should wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, we're at the end of our topics. And
I'm just like, whoa! I'm just like, it is like I am like in the dark. I tried to turn on the light right before we came on, and I had to figure out which string was to pull, but I didn't want the fan to go out, so I was like, I guess I'm just going to deal.
Let's see if we can budget to get you. I bought one of these little camera lights that I've got on because I'm dealing, I'm in front of a window. You're backlit right now, but maybe we can just get a little light there. So if we do go over, and it'll also help you with other stuff you're doing with your broadcast. But yeah, so we can kind of come to the close of the show here. I wanted to ask you if there's anything else you wanted to share with things you're involved in, either on your own or with Hardin's Media. Before I make some announcements about what'll be coming up in the next week.
There are a few things, actually. One of them is more of a plug. One of them is an effort that I'm in the middle of with ranked choice voting. So I'll just start with the ranked choice voting right now. So it was supposed to come to the floor for a vote. There was not enough co-sponsorship in the state Senate. Now, I don't know if our viewers know this, but Maine has been the only state that has passed ranked choice voting for both state and federal level elections. And I am a staunch believer that ranked choice voting is the pathway to get out of the duopoly that is our electoral system. And again, I'm an activist because I'm endlessly optimistic, even though I believe that electoral politics has largely failed us. I do believe it's fixable with the right tools. And I am of the belief that ranked choice voting is one of those tools, as well as a legitimate third party. So I think that we have to be coming at it from both sides, because we know that the powers that be are not going to just say, oh yeah, third party, come on in. Yeah, totally. And so this is one way. So how do we do that? Here's what you do. You call your state senator, ask them to co-sponsor the bill, so that way it will get to the floor for a vote. Because like I said, it was supposed to do that in this last week, and it did not. It failed to get the co-sponsorship it needed. I know that there is an active contingent of folks who are doing phone calling and canvassing in the city of Chicago for ranked choice voting. Just go to I should have written that down. Fair Choice Illinois, Fair Vote Illinois, to get involved in that effort. And if there's not those, if canvassing and phone banking is not happening in your area, just get a hold of them, and they'll get you started on that effort. Okay, so that's one area that I am actively taking a part in presently. And then the next thing is just a shameless plug. Check me out at comfyfitness.com, where basically I help people, and my crew helps people in exercise and movement if you're dealing with pain in your movement. We do everything from clinical essential somatics to tremoring, tension and trauma relieving exercises, yoga, all the way up to functional fitness and high intensity cardio. We operate our online services in something called the gift economy. We wanted our business to reflect the world we want to see. And so that is why we operate in gift economy. Gift economy is where people get to choose whatever membership price they want to come in at. We gift our expertise, our energy, and our love for helping people to the world, and people who participate get to give back in whatever way they choose.
That's really great. Yeah, no, I would encourage people to visit that link, talk to Kira about that. And I think that her energy will take you through those fitness sessions and that kind of therapy and make it much, much easier. From my end, I wanted to promote this Sunday at 6 o'clock. Tentatively, I'm going to be joined by a local Chicago author, Mars Messina, who will be sharing an interview with me or talking with me about her 2 books, as well as her podcast that I believe is on, I want to say it's on Spotify. I'll double check though, but we'll have a thumbnail up by Sunday. That's an effort to start embracing our local Chicago artists and talk about more than just politics and civic matters. So I hope you can all join us for that, 6 o'clock Sunday evening. And then Tuesday, I'll be joined again by Jose, where we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the Exelon energy story as it relates to a deal that was recently forged or is pending, that we talked about a little bit on this past Tuesday's show between Exelon and Pritzker and the Illinois State Legislature. So exciting things ahead. I encourage everybody to please, if you've got anything you want to share from your community, we'd love to have you on the show and talk with us and do an interview with you. It can be arts, it can be stories from your neighborhood. We really want to cover everything that's happening in all 50 wards of the city. You can email me, jerry@chicagocorner.tv. Please like and subscribe and share our channel with everyone so they can join us when we broadcast as we build the channel. Kira, I'm looking really forward to when we can co-host again. I don't know what next Friday looks like for you, but it'll be either you, Lainey, or Kit, one of my fantastic co-hosts, to bring in some exciting, stimulating conversation. I know it's getting dark where you are. I want to end the broadcast before
it's like, maybe I should run over and turn on the light real quick.
Yeah, no, we'll wrap it up. But I'm going to look into seeing if we can get you a ring light. So if we do go late, and then you can, you should have one. So
you don't want to miss on this mug here.
Right, exactly.
What's going on, right?
Exactly. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight, Kira. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Thanks for asking me to join.
Absolutely. Good night, Chicago. Everybody stay safe. Have a good weekend. Oh, there she is. Well, wait, there's the lovely Kira.
It was my sweet husband who decided that you guys should all. There he is.
Nice to see you.
Look at that stud.
How's the little one?
Oh, she's so good. She's
Fantastic.
The cutest. She's the cutest. Seriously, the cutest. Yes.
If you feel the urge to, we should take a peek at her some night. If you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, totally comfortable.
Fantastic.
With that. Yeah, totally.
Right,
you can see me all over my Instagram and Facebook for Comfy Fitness. So totally comfortable.
So the @Comfy Fitness isn't for Twitter. It's your Instagram handle, so everybody knows.
Yeah, it's my Instagram is Comfy Fitness and my Facebook's Comfy Fitness, and I post there far more than I do my personal page.
All right, and we're also on Twitter and we're also on Facebook. Hardlands Media on Facebook. We now have a Twitter feed. It's all in the notes below here on YouTube. Join us again Sunday, next Tuesday, next Friday. I guess I'm repeating myself, but good night, Chicago. Everybody be safe.
Bye.